Today is Sunday, October 25th, 2020, and today I'm thinking about how the sad truth about where we live is that we're surrounded by a bunch of people that even when they pretend like they care, they don't really care, and they're happy to see our demise. And you can call it crab in a bucket syndrome, that we're all stuck here with a bunch of crabs in the bucket, and you have to be the one to pick yourself up and get out of that. And so this image really sums it up very nicely. Some people just act like they're trying to help you. And there was a really overwhelming response to this image. And I think it's just because it's something that we all have dealt with instances where we feel trapped, stuck, and in desperate need of help. And there's these people that they, on the outside, it might look like they're trying to help, but in reality, they really aren't trying to help you. They're just acting like they're trying to help you. And so this picture sums that up really nicely. And it makes me think of one time in my life in particular. So this is something that just is true for my entire life. I've always been surrounded by people who had this ladder laying there and they could have let it down for me, but they didn't. The use of the ladder symbol too is very telling in this because it's a favorite symbol of the people who know about the Masonic secrets and working the steps and all that. And not saying that being initiated and learning all those truths in the way that those people figure them out, I'm not saying that that's a good thing at all. It's not. But had I known the things that I know now back then, I clearly wouldn't have done a lot of things with my life that I ended up doing. But these people who know the secret, they just idly sit back and their whole life is trying to pretend like they don't know the secret when they really do. And so in that way, I've always been surrounded by bucket crabs. But I can talk about one thing in my life in particular, and that's my alcoholism. Between the ages of about 24 and 28 for me, I was an alcoholic. And it's one of those things that it gets worse and worse. It's very insidious. It started out very slow. But how it applies to this is, for me, alcohol in the beginning was a way for me to overcome what some people might call social anxiety, but I don't really see myself as an anxious person. In the end of my alcoholism, alcohol can actually make you really anxious. I did get some anxiety in the end of my alcoholism, but it was just withdrawals. But anyways, coming over, like trying to get over my social anxiety, you might see it, but you might say it like that. But really what it was is just trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, and I was trying to fit in. It was like one last chance because I was in an upper education thing. I was around a new group of people, and it was the time in my life where I felt like I maybe had the most friends, and I was going to parties and stuff, things that I didn't do a lot of in undergrad. And so alcohol was just an easy tool for me to use to try to make me feel more comfortable, I guess. But in the end, I just ended up getting way too drunk and making a fool of myself most of the time. So it's not worth it just to feel more comfortable at a big gathering with a bunch of inverts. To, I was trying to force something that just wasn't there. And these people never really wanted to connect with me, besides a few people in my life that actually wanted to be my friends. No matter how hard I try to be friendly with most free martins, they just want nothing to do with me. And uh, just for instance, somebody could be assigned to be my office mate or something, and no matter how nice or how much I try to hang out with that person and be interested in their interests and try to share stuff like that, just everybody has a wall. I mean, mostly the free martins have a wall up with me, and they never actually really want to be my friend. And so I don't know. I think that alcohol was just a way for me to numb all of that stuff and pretend like everything's okay and pretend like I can fit in. And from there, it just becomes an addiction. Addiction to alcohol is really, really terrible. I think I've made one video on it before, but before the whole addiction thing took grip of me, and alcohol is called spirits for a reason. I really do believe that when you get blackout drunk, that demons can take over your body and make you do things that you would never do. And so I just don't touch alcohol anymore. I it's it's just not something that I ever want to be associated with anymore. I have too many bad memories, and so I don't even touch it. But to bring it back to the point of this, crabs in a bucket, you have people that surround you that they don't want to help out. During my whole alcoholic stint, my wife was the only person that ever like sat me down and talked about how I have a drinking problem. And she even was really kind about it and didn't try to like go over the top with it. She was really just gentle about it. But everybody else in my life pretended like nothing was the matter. And I remember I was talking a lot more with my mom and my dad. It's so embarrassing. I would like get drunk and call them and talk to them. It was like the worse I was, the worse my alcoholism got, the more friendly and connected I was with my family, which was just such a weird thing because I don't like my family. And I just basically tolerate them. And so it was just a weird thing that when my life was falling apart and crumbling, it was like my family was there being friendly with me, but they I remember my mom would say something like, "Oh, you're just depressed or something." And it was like, "Okay, maybe, but what about the alcoholism? Like what about the fact that you're talking to your son at like 10 a.m. and they're like slurring their words and their life is falling apart and the thing is that they don't care about that stuff. They like that stuff because probably because they have their own issues and oftentimes they have their own alcohol issues. And so they like to see people around them crumbling and falling apart and they'll tell them, "Oh, yeah, it's all okay. You're not that bad off." When really they are desperately calling for help. And yeah, so that's my story. Nobody cared. I was clearly an alcoholic. People must have smelled it on me all the time and screwing up at work sometimes, and nobody ever brought up alcohol ever. My wife was the only one who ever told me I had a problem, and everybody else, it was like certain members of my family, I had never been closer with them than when I was an alcoholic. And now they just don't talk to me. I guess now I'll throw this in here because it's kind of interesting. Because part of my awakening happened when I quit alcohol. It was like all these things happened at the same time. I I hit my bottom. I quit alcohol. I started waking up to all these truths. I had all this free time now that I wasn't just getting blackout drunk and rewatching the same movies over and over and wasting time on Reddit. I had all this free time to do research, and that's how I started finding the truth. I figured out that the truth is in the Bible. I started following Jesus Christ. All this stuff just happened so quickly, and it was like fake phony relationships with my family, that everything was all great when I was destroying my life and destroying my relationship, and everything was fine with my family then. But when I woke up, found Jesus and all that, that's when things went really downhill, especially with my mom. And nowadays it's kind of stabilized back to a neutral place, but it's just so odd. Like, oh, you're no longer alcoholic and you found Jesus, and then people are like negatively reacting to that. It's just a strange phenomenon that you'll run into. I've heard more than once. I've heard some people talk down on real bio women. A strat was like, "Oh, that person became a born again Christian," and then people talk down on that stuff. Like, why would you ever talk down on something like that? Anyways, so this turned out to be quite a ramble. I know that there's some more stuff that I wanted to say. Just that trying to trying to fit in with this world is not the right thing. And I think that a lot of the drinking, because a lot of my drinking was just to escape, just to get to my happy place, and not care about other stuff. I think it was because I was starting to wake up and truly realize the hellhole that I'm a part of and surrounded by. Okay, I remember one thing I wanted to bring up. So I just wanted to bring up how, of the few friends that I've had, None of them contact me anymore. One of them, I have this awkward interaction with them. Right when I was waking up, I took a fishing trip with them or something, and they were in the car, and I was talking about the trannies. I was like, so I don't remember exactly how I worded it, but imagine you're telling one of your good friends that you just stumbled upon an amazing secret. And the look on their face when I was explaining this, they just didn't say anything because it hadn't clicked to me yet about all the Freemartins. I just knew about the really obvious ones. And so there's one friend of mine in particular, I told them about all this stuff. I even told them that I had a YouTube channel at some point, and now that friend never talks to me ever again. Just things like that. It's so obvious that we're surrounded by these people. What kind of a friend does that, where you're talking to somebody, they tell you that they stumbled upon some crazy secret, they unload all this information on you, and then that's like it. That's the end of your relationship. You just never talk to that person again, even though you used to be good friends with that person. It's so strange and obvious, and they're probably just too embarrassed, I guess, and maybe they feel like they're in too deep. But I don't understand that because, okay, clearly they're in the wrong. So they're the ones that need to come up and ask for an apology. I've already forgiven these people. I don't care. But it's like they'll never come and ask for that apology. And they'll never come and say, oh, yeah, you were right about all the inverts. And I never told you because I was a part of it. Like, I would understand if somebody came and told me that. But nobody's ever told me that. I can talk to my dad endlessly about Orange 33 stuff, and even though they're a part of it, my dad will just always pretend that he doesn't have any idea what I'm talking about. How these people are lunatics. They seriously just have to take a crazy pill every day because of the fantasy that they live in. And they know it's a fantasy. Normal asleep people, they can get along kind of. They'll feel cognitive dissonance. They'll feel in their soul that something's wrong, but they'll be able to live their life normally. The people who know that it's all a big joke and a big secret, they destroy themselves by living these fake lives. And they're the kind of people who you think that you're friends with them, but 3 years go by and you've done all sorts of stuff with your life. You've had a few children, things like that. And then you get a call out of the blue from this person and they're like, "Oh, guess what happened to me?" And that's how basically all my friends are. They don't really care about me at all. And they've known through my life that I've had certain struggles, and they never cared to talk to me about the truth or to try to help me out in any meaningful way. They just pretend to be supportive, but really they just care about themselves. And I think that's mostly it on that topic. I know that there's like one or two things, probably more, that I could say about it, but I've probably said enough. You can share in the comments how you know that you've been surrounded by crab buckets who, or, crabs in a bucket, who they just want to see you torn down and they don't want to help you out, even if they pretend. Psalms chapter 59. Deliver me from mine enemies, O my God, defend me from them that rise up against me. Deliver me from the workers of iniquity, and save me from bloody men. For lo, they lie in wait for my soul. The mighty are gathered against me, not for my transgression, nor for my sin, O Lord. So these people, they're not even against us because we did anything wrong. I just really connected with that verse in particular because we never did anything wrong. I never did anything wrong to these people for them to treat me like this. And I'm still here willing to forgive these people, but they're just going to keep going on with the charade. And I don't know how they live with themselves, but that's not something that I have to worry about. But it's so true that you don't even have to do anything to these people and they will hate you. Jesus didn't do anything to anyone except heal them and tell them the truth. And people constantly wanted to murder him. And they eventually did. And so this is just something that I connect with. My whole life, I've kind of felt like I've only tried to be nice to people and tried to reach out and be friendly with people. So why do I constantly get rejected? Well, and of course we internalize it and we think that it's something wrong with us, but it really isn't. They run and prepare themselves without my fault. awake to help me, and behold. There's even this strange, a lot of things that Jesus said, it at first might seem strange, but it's so true. But Jesus said unto them, a prophet is not without honor, but in his own country, and among his own kin, and in his own house. And yeah, that's just, I've always got more praise and, I don't know, respect. People treating me like an actual human. It's almost always just random people. And for me, I've grown up with the internet. So when I think in my life of people that truly genuinely seemed interested in talking to me and sharing things with me, it's like I can remember one person from my high school who it actually seemed like they liked talking to me, and we had kind of we weren't really friends in high school, but we would chat sometimes on Facebook chat, and even that has kind of its interesting things because that person was like a very strict Christian, and they would talk about how they believed the Bible literally, but it's not like they never sat there and explained to me stuff like, well, can't you see that NASA is just Photoshop? They just kind of left it at, they'll just say something like, well, yeah, I believe the Bible literally, and then they'll just leave it at that. They don't tend to go into specifics. But so there's these few people like kind of like that in my life who I feel like have actually appreciated me. Having my channel, I've run into people who, I don't know, a lot of them are yes men and they don't really do anything besides make posts on YouTube, but they seem to appreciate what I have to say more than my family, for instance, or even who I thought were my friends, the people who are close to me, my own kin, my own house type of things. Matthew chapter 15, verse 14. Let them alone. They be blind leaders of the blind, and if the blind lead the blind, both shall fall into the ditch. And I know that this was something that I didn't complete my thought earlier, but I think of this when I think of how I was drinking very heavily, and my family could tell that I was drinking really heavily, but nobody stopped me, took me aside and told me to slow down, and like that I had a problem and that I was destroying my life. Nobody told me that. And the reason being that they have their own drinking problems, and that's probably part of the reason why they don't want to come and tell you that you have it. So I guess I appreciate the fact that they're not hypocrites about it, but to me it's just very interesting. Once I stopped drinking, the two people in my family who kind of were okay with me destroying my life with drinking, they also cut back their drinking after I did. I think after they saw that my life got so much better after I stopped drinking. Okay, so that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Not the most clear and thought out video beforehand, but it was nice and cathartic to get this out here, and hopefully it helps someone. And so I did have some comments from people that said that they have drinking problems, and anyone with any sort of addiction problem nowadays, I really can't judge those people, and I understand how hard it can be. And so I pray for anybody out there who still drinks alcohol and they feel like they have a problem with it. And the only answer is to just stop drinking it, in my opinion. And maybe I'll go try to find, I did a video on alcohol before. I think it's an interesting topic. I think it's interesting that the Bible talks so much about alcohol and not about other things. But I'll just leave it at that. God bless everyone.